I'm finally posting a little video about using the black strap. It's going to be short and sweet, but it's just going to give you one variation of how to lay down on the strap, and then also how to move your shoulders and arms, ribs, and everything connected through one nice opening. Lots of variations, and I'm just going to adjust this mat so that the angle seems a little bit better. That looks good. So, black spinal strip. What we're going to do is take one end of it, fold it about the length of your hand. So I've got one hand length of the strap is double, and the other floppy long bit is single. So you can see that. Now I'm going to place the double folded bit between my shoulder blades. Already I'm asking a fair bit of flexibility from my shoulders to do this, but if it's in the cards to extend back in this way and hold it quite tight in between my shoulder blades, then I'm going to, with my knees bent, slowly, as slow as I can, there's going to be a point where I'm going to just sort of flop back, lay down on it. As soon as I feel the fold, pushing in with my feet, I'm going to lift my hips up. Feel that the double strap, the end of it, is at the bottom of my neck, and then gently lay my head down onto the strap. Just checking to make sure I'm in full view. So I've got double fold between my shoulder blades, single strap underneath my neck and my head. Keeping my hips up, I'm going to take the heels of my hands to my forehead and just rest here for a bit. Rest the weight of my arms from elbows down to hands on my forehead, so I can just really get a sense of the weight of my head. And then with my feet pressing as symmetrically down into the ground as possible. I'm not overusing my glutes in order to keep my hips up. I'm also sharing that responsibility with my inner thighs and my hamstrings. I can also, though, use my feet to push a little bit, not just down into the ground, but sort of in the direction of my feet, the space that my toes are pointing. And I can, with that pressure, feel more distinctly the double strap in the upper part of my upper back and try to soften into it. And just taking a few breaths with the intention of softening in the space between the shoulder blades, softening where I feel the double strap. And slowly, over the course of the next few breaths, keeping my hands on my forehead to make sure that my head stays put, I'm going to slowly start to lower down my back ribs, and then my hips will follow. And just really trying to let the shoulder blades feel like they're melting down on either side of the strap as I descend. With the back ribs leading, I feel my front ribs following clearly, but I can also sort of embellish that with my exhalations, drawing my front ribs down toward my hips. At some point, when I start lowering, I might feel that the double strap at the upper part of my back feels like it's lightening. And that's a little bit of compensating that my body's doing. Rather than being able to stay deep the whole way down, I'm not able to distribute it as evenly as maybe one day I can. Just so that you know that's normal. We're all normal. Beautiful. Once the hips rest down onto the ground, make sure your glutes are relaxed. And then go ahead and take your hands off your forehead and extend them up toward the ceiling. And touch the tips of your thumbs together. Palms facing your knees. And then a couple times we'll just stretch the arms up toward the ceilings, basically reversing all the softening we've been trying to do in between the shoulder blades. Press the double strap away now, and then plug your arms back in. It's not really a plug, but I think it's a good analogy. It feels like that, dropping the arm bones down into their shoulder sockets. I'll do it one more time. And with that space between my shoulder blades, as soft as I can keep it, my thumb tips pressed slightly, and my elbows relatively straight, I'm going to start to lower my arms toward overhead. As I do this, I'm going to keep on exhaling my front ribs away from my armpits, down toward my hip bones. Already when I get about to this point, I can start to feel some pressure increasing. Inner line of my arms, like from my armpits down to the inside pits of my elbows. Where else do I feel something? I mean, it's going to be different for everyone, but just go slow enough. Make sure you're moving at a pace where that allows you to really feel where your sort of tensions lie, where the resistance is. When we move quickly, our shoulders are so complicated and so wise. I don't know. They can move around and avoid that resistance. And they're wise. But I just keep softening, just keep almost resting my arms against the pressure that I find. The strength here is in a little bit on my exhales, hugging my ribs in and down. And an intention, not so much a strength, but an intention of keeping that space between the shoulder blades soft, keeping the arms plugged in. Nice. After the next couple of breaths, it's been maybe about a minute, I'm going to just let the tips of my thumbs separate and release my arms down to the ground about shoulder width distance apart. Still soft between the shoulder blades. And my arms might make it to the ground, they might not, before I need to bring my hips up in order to feel my arms really release. And so hips coming up again, arms about shoulder width distance apart, draped heavily on the ground. And just pausing here for a few breaths to try to let those strong, fleshy muscles on the outside of my shoulders really soften into the ground. Glutes are not doing everything here to keep my hips up. My feet are pressing not as much on the inner edge as they are on the outer edge. Inner thighs, I can feel them, hamstrings, but arms just heavy. And then a few times I'm going to just lower down back ribs and hips, just until I feel the pressure start to increase, until my shoulders and arms want to pop up off the ground. And then I just rest there in that pressure. Push into my feet, let my hips rise up, take the pressure off, and do it again. And a few times just down and up with the hips while the arms are draped on the ground. And this is just, again, one variation of many that you can come up with, different ways of moving your arms and moving your hips in order to just suss out what kinds of, what kind of variations of compensatory movements you have in your body. When you start to feel pressure build up, when you start to make your way into an area of resistance, how does your body try to move around it? Get to the place where your body wants to just make that shift, make that little adjustment, and pause. Pause in the pressure rather than avoiding it. See how soft you can get when things feel sticky, when things feel like they're holding. Wonderful. So at some point, when you've had enough, and in the interest of keeping this little video short, I'm going to pause now, but if you want to take some more time, just press pause. And we'll do one more little movement to just incorporate that, I don't know if incorporate's the right word, to integrate that opening into our upper back, and that is an Alexander stretch for our shoulders. We'll lay down on our side, and I'll just show one side, then you can do it up the second side on your own. Laying down, arms out stretched in front of your chest, shoulders are stacked, head's on the ground, top arm's going to extend forward. See how much length you can find as softly as possible, and then fingertips are going to graze along the ground, up toward overhead. Again, slowing down when you feel those areas of resistance. Once the arm's overhead, check in. It's a good place to just pause and regroup. Check in with your hips, your legs, that everything's soft, your neck is relaxed, and then rolling onto your fingernails and carrying on with your arm another 90 degrees. Roll onto your back of your head, upper back, peeling open into a twist. Nice, noticing how you breathe, or maybe how your breath changes as you start to feel into the sticky areas, and then starting the way back, rolling back onto your side, dragging space into the side of your body, your arm following along, rolling back onto your finger pads, and then the hands coming back together in front again. Wonderful. And then roll over and take it on the second side.